Hey guys, Scott here, and today I want to have a bit of a discussion about the healthiest slowdown perk in Dead by Daylight's history. When I say healthiest, I mean the least complained about overall on both sides. So we have had a number of different regression metas. The first one was basically, the old Hex rune, which was badly designed because what it did was make it so if you didn't hit a great skill check, the gen would regress. And so you would have average or bad players just never able to do generators unless they gen tapped, which took twice as long, which is still the best gen delay perk in the game then if they're trying to gen tap through it. So they just had to find the totem. If they couldn't find the totem or it was protected or in a bad spot, they just couldn't do anything. So that was really bad design. Eventually, we moved to a sort of gen kick meta with like Pop Goes the Weasel when Clown came out, and that was used for quite some time. And then we had the new rune come out, which made it so whenever you stop repairing a generator, your gen would automatically regress as long as the totem was up. And that was used for a while, but then they nerfed that down to 100%, and that sort of pigeonholed people into the newly changed, gen kick setup of Eruption, Call of Brian, Overcharge, which we're currently in right now. So my question is, which was the least oppressive of all of these? Which is the most healthy for the game overall? Well, I can tell you, it definitely wasn't the first version of Rune because that just all it did was punish newer players, which just makes no sense. That was probably the worst design. Then we had a brief period where there was like Thanatophobia, Pentimento, just the incredibly slow generators. We were all complaining about Legion during that time. That felt really bad too. And now we're in the gen kick meta with Eruption, Call of Brian, Overcharge, things like that, where games are drawn out for 40 minutes. Killers won't even chase you because they just want to set up their 3 gens over and over again. And so that is also complained about a lot, and that doesn't feel good at all, especially Eruption being super rough in solo queue. So I think the overall healthiest regression that this game has ever had was the middle Hex rune, where it was 200% regression, but not the old version. I'm going to call it mid Hex rune for now because there's been 3 versions of rune pretty much. So the middle version of Hex rune is the best in terms of game health. And the reason is there's none of that boring control stage anymore. There's no just like spending 25 minutes of the match just kicking gens, not chasing people. Like, how many times have you gone against a killer that refuses to chase anybody? They're not accomplishing anything, but you also can't beat them. They just force the match into a stalemate. I'm even guilty of doing this myself. Sometimes I really want to win for whatever reason, like the team pissed me off or whatever, and I just really want to win. So I'll drag out a match kicking gens with Call of Brian Eruption for 20 minutes, and I will win eventually. It's not really fun for me. It's not fun for the people I'm going against. It's just not a good time for anybody. So I think that wasn't great. The whole Pentimento and Thanatophobia Legion thing where gens just took 2 minutes to do was also miserable. I think the best version was the middle rune because it exemplified the whole just chase people aspect of the game. Back when that was, how it used to be, that was basically the only gen regression I used. It was just Undying and Rune. I just Undying to protect my Rune, but Rune was the only game delay perk I actually used if you, don't want to actually count Undying in that. And it's because it was perfect for my playstyle. I don't like control killers. I don't like playing trappers. I don't like, setting up 3 gens and things like that. I just want to chase people. All I want to do is just chase people. And Rune allowed me to just chase people and get game delay from that. At the same time, survivors didn't have to worry about me not committing to chases, so they were actually getting to engage in the fun part of the game, which is chases and rescues and things like that. And, there weren't giant 30-minute drawn-out matches. Could eventually, you would find the rune, too. Like, your rune's not going to last the entire match. It gave you the option, if you really, could not deal with the regression of rune, which was really strong. It still needs to be a hex, by the way. It's still an extremely strong effect at that 200% regression, so it needed to be a hex, but you had the option of having a side objective and going looking for it if you had Undying too. It would take them a while, but they could eventually remove that ability to regress at generators. But that's also giving the killer some game delay too at the same time when they're looking for the gen, spending time breaking them. It's at least 32 seconds, of survivor's time actually just breaking the totems and things like that. So I think that was the best version of game delay that we actually had. It was, the thing that incentivized chasing. There was no just delaying games over and over again. And as long as it remained a hex and it could be destroyed, you were never going to be locked into a scenario where you're just in a stalemate forever because you could eventually remove that aspect of the match. It could just take a while. And I think that was, the best part. So overall, medium rune was the best overall healthy game delay perk we had. Still needed to be a hex because of how strong it was. But overall, I think that's sort of the style of regression that should be incentivized, not this whole control boring meta where we just have people kicking gens and refusing to chase for 30 minutes at a time. No one's enjoying that. But that's it. I'm curious to hear you guys' thoughts on the subject. Thanks for watching.